Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to apologize for missing last week's episode. I hope you understand that I do take these episodes very seriously, and not getting an episode out last week really bothered me. It was something that anything I say is an excuse, but long story short, as I said in the episode previous to that, was in the process of moving, got into the new house, setting up the new studio, and I could not get all of the logistical issues put in place in time to be able to get an episode out for Thursday. I thought about recording it and then releasing it on Friday or Saturday, and I just decided I'm going to regroup and get back onto it for this week. So again, my apologies for not getting an episode out last week. I appreciate the fact that you're listening to these episodes or watching these episodes, and I want you to understand that it really meant a lot for me in a negative way to not get this episode out to you last week. With that, that's drawing me into this week's episode. Let's get into round 36 of the tactical transition tips. This time the topic is get back on track. For the close range group, those of you looking at your transition right away to say maybe a year from now, reset fast and move forward. And for the medium range group, those of you looking at your transition in say 5 or so years, revisit your plan often. And for the long range group, those of you just starting your career, or maybe you've got at least a decade ahead of you, incorporate recovery days.
When you transition out, is try to model all of the good things, the discipline, the structure, that little bit of rigidity into your everyday life. And I think that that's a great way to make that transition happen, man.
Take the time to invest in yourself because it means everything. You know? That's what the difference is. The difference is not just to collect a check. It's to live 25 years, 30, 40 years after you retire and pay it forward that way.
For the close range group, you need to reset fast and move forward. Mistakes are going to happen. As I said in the opening, stuff is going to come up. Shit happens. But you can't dwell on it. You can't let yourself get mired in that mistake. Give yourself that moment to be upset with yourself. Take ownership of what didn't go correctly. Most importantly, though, don't dwell on it. Don't let it consume you. Be angry for a little bit, move on. Where you have to focus, though, is, was the mistake intentional, or was the mistake just how things happen? What I mean by that is, did you miss a deadline for an application? Did you miss getting paperwork in that you need for your transition? Did something not occur that you had control over? If it's something that was completely out of your control, the only thing that I would say for that is build in a little bit more time the next go round so that something that's out of your control, you have the time to regroup from it, as opposed to simply taking care of everything that you need to take care of and not giving the outside influences enough time to be able to do what needs to be done, and then you have the ability to correct a mistake that might be done on their part. If what was not done, didn't get done, should have gotten done, whatever, however you want to refer to it, was your fault, then that's when you have to say, did I do it intentionally? And is there some underlying reason why you don't want to get that done? Or was it just simply you didn't plan well? I'll throw myself under the bus. I thought I would have enough time to get into my new house, get the new studio set up, and be able to record and get an episode out by Thursday morning. That didn't happen. The thing that I didn't factor in is I went to a slightly bigger room. That slightly bigger room put logistical problems on hanging the curtains, the lights, everything else that I wasn't factoring into the time that I was allotting to be able to get the next episode out. That was my fault. I was angry with myself, but I need to move on, and I can't make those mistakes again. Whatever your plan is for your transition, if you hit a hiccup, whatever that hiccup it is, get back on your plan right away. Have the next task. Hey, task number 4 was screwed up. I got to either correct it and move forward, or if you can, move to task 5. But don't get mired in, man, task 4 didn't get done. Everything's screwed up now. Yeah, it happened. Move forward with it. You always have to remember, time isn't on your side. You're looking at your transition, especially if you're right in the middle of it. You don't have the time to sit there and wallow in the, oh man, that went wrong. It happened. You've got to figure out a way to get back on track, get back on that horse and get moving forward. Whatever those goals are, those wickets that you're trying to hit before your transition, take the next one and in a positive way, focus on that. The longer it takes for you to refocus yourself, the more momentum you're losing. So don't, again, I'm going to beat this into the ground. Don't get yourself mired in that mud. Figure out a way to get moving forward again. I understand that that's sometimes easier said than done, especially if you were putting a lot of weight on whatever task, whatever objective needed to be completed. But I guarantee you there's a way around it. Now, if by chance it causes a small setback, that's when you have to, and again, I'm going to throw myself under the bus. Yes, I could have been up at 3:00 in the morning trying to record an episode. It probably wouldn't have been a quality episode. I would have been tired. I wouldn't have been focused on it. But where I'm going with this is it might take you a couple days, a couple really long nights to recoup what was lost or what didn't get done so that you can move it along, as opposed to just kind of going, all right, it's going to get fixed and it's going to get fixed in its own time. You might need to push that boulder up that hill, so to speak. But remember, the more you practice this, doing it today when it's, I don't want to say things aren't as important. Obviously, your focus is your transition, but you're still in a period right now where you've got stuff going on in your life every day, and stuff goes wrong. Your kid's soccer game is this weekend and you were supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and X went wrong. Either refocus on Y or quickly get X done so that you could keep moving into Y. Don't let all of everything collapse on you or turn into just one of those days. And we all know what one of those days are like because X didn't happen. You have to remember that, especially when it comes to your kids or your family, as equal as your transition, quitting or going backwards isn't your option. Your train that you're on heading to your transition, your train that you're on dealing with your family stuff, it doesn't stop. So you have to figure out a way, get that train back on that track, or find a way to get on that train again. If that means figuring out where the next stop is and bust your ass and get there. This is all tools, or a tool that you're putting in your tool belt of your adaptability, your ability to deal with a setback, whatever it is. Is it something that you had a hand in? Is it something that somebody else had a hand in? It's your ability to take that setback, put it behind you, and move forward. We all know people that we work with them and man, one thing goes wrong and it is like a domino effect. They can't get anything back on track. When your time comes to sell yourself to your next company, that's something that an employer is going to want to know. Hey, when I address a situation, whatever it is, I don't get stuck there. I immediately start working on a solution around it, through it, or over it. But I don't let that, whatever it is, that little setback cause me to just stop. Using a term that we're all kind of familiar with, get off the X. Don't just stand there taking direct fire. At least get off the X, get in a different situation, reassess what's going on, and continue moving forward. Like I opened up with, mistakes are going to happen. Mr. Murphy likes to come along on every single adventure. Where you gain your confidence and where you gain your marketability is your ability to address setbacks quickly, rapidly, and get back in the fight, get back moving forward again.
This episode is brought to you by Soflete, a tactical fitness company founded by special operations soldiers. Soflete is dedicated to helping you achieve a healthy lifestyle. From expertly crafted training programs to high-quality proteins, pre-workouts, and sleep and recovery supplements, they've got everything you need to power through your day. Soflete also has a full line of clothing. They have you covered from shorts to cold weather gear. Embracing the motto, Die Living, Soflete inspires us all to embrace life with vigor and resilience. So take the first step towards a healthier you. Visit soflete.com. That's SOFLETE.com. And use the promo code TDP20 to get 20% off your order. Again, that's TDP20 for 20% off your order.
Medium range group. Revisit your plan often. The most important thing to remember is your plan today for what's going to happen with your transition 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road, 3 years, whatever it is. What your plan is today might not work tomorrow. But don't wait until tomorrow, and tomorrow meaning your transition, to realize that your plan had some flaws in it, had some things that you thought would be appropriate, applicable, whatever it is for your transition, but they don't. Things can change between now and when you're going to make your transition out. The job market that you are banking on today might not be a viable job market when you get to your transition. Whether it's just a change in the economy, whether it's a change in the industry itself, things change. You need to be able to adapt to those changes as you're approaching your transition. Equally, 6 months from now, a year from now, something may present itself that might cause you to change what you think you want to do post-transition. The plan that you have in place today may not be a plan that is applicable to that change. So again, revisit your plan often and make sure that as you're approaching your transition, you're making the necessary corrections to keep that plan in place or implement a new plan to make your transition as smooth as possible. We might think like, oh, I've got all my bases covered. I'm good to go. I'm going to go into cruise mode. I'm going to slide into my transition. Everything's fine. You may find out at the wrong time when you don't have the time to course correct that not everything is done or not everything is prepared. So make sure when you're moving forward, as you make your next goal, whatever it is, a training class you want to get to, a certification you're going to put in your tool belt, an evaluation, something that you think is going to have bearing on your transition, if it comes out negative, if it comes out that man, I want to take this particular training class and I'm looking for it to start a year from now. And 3 months from now, you find out that class is no longer available, or the company offering that class is no longer offering it. You need to be able to pivot and go find another place to take that class. Little things like that having a good plan in place, but a plan that you're constantly circling back and making sure that you're staying on course is going to be beneficial to you. I would say if you're 5 years out from now and nothing on the horizon is going to change your focus or your desire for your transition, then maybe you do a review every 6 months. If for whatever reason, though, 6 months from now, you have a new idea in your head about what you might want to do when you leave this current profession, then maybe what you do is you back it off and you do a 3-month review, because there might be some things that you need to change and you want to make sure you're staying on track. As you get closer to your transition, that review needs to become more frequent. It may even get down to once a month, if not once a week. So as you're closing in on your transition, the frequency for reviewing your plan and making sure all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed is going to become more frequent. Don't rely on your brain. We all have horrible memories, or at least I do. You may think that I've got it all covered and it's in my head. It never is. If you are one of those people, great. Myself, I could think that I've got everything covered and I don't. Get yourself some type of tracking software. There's a bunch of them out there. If you want to go super high tech, you can just do a simple spreadsheet. You could do a notebook with just notes of what needs to be done and check it off when it gets completed. But have something that's a little more tangible than just trying to keep everything in your brain. You're inevitably going to forget something. You're going to forget a date. You're going to forget to submit a simple document that needs to get approved. And just because it's been submitted, it's not a fire and forget. Make sure you're getting some sort of verification and stay on top of it. Don't just assume that, oh, that document was done, it's all good to go, until you get some sort of verification. Hey, we've received this document, or you've taken a training class. Make sure you get that training certificate right away. Don't leave it till the last minute, or don't, because what will happen is you'll get going on with your life. Oh, I'll go back and I'll get that training certificate, and then you'll completely forget about it. And worst part is you may completely forget altogether. And then when you get to your transition and you're putting your resume together, or you're putting your notebook of all the cool things you've done, it could completely just slip your mind. So take care of the little things right now. Don't let them get away from you. If you can, get an accountability partner, somebody who's on that same path that you're on with maybe a 5-year transition window. Hold each other accountable. Hey, are you getting your things done? And for the same token, them coming back to you, you getting your things done. And hold each other to the fire. Make sure that you're a good partner, and hopefully you've picked somebody who's a good partner to you, that they're making sure you're doing the same thing. At your transition is not when you want to find out that you didn't dot all your I's and cross all your T's, and that you're not prepared. The worst part of that, though, is getting there and realizing that something wasn't done that you had control over, making sure that it was getting done. As I mentioned earlier, there are going to be those things that are out of your control. All you can do with those is make sure you build in enough time that there is the ability to course correct before it's necessary. So stay on top of things, get yourself a plan, and make sure you're checking off to stay that course through regular reviews of that plan.
This episode is brought to you by Trident Coffee, the veteran-owned brand where every sip inspires you to live life full steam ahead. I've been drinking their coffees for a while now, and I'm glad to partner with a company whose products I use. At Trident, they're more than just coffee. They're storytellers. Crafted by veterans, their instant cold brew is perfect for those who serve, those who have served, and anyone who values wellness. Featuring natural ingredients like organic mushrooms, adaptogens, and nootropics, it's more than just a morning pick-me-up. It's your new wellness ritual. Enjoy it at home or on the go, wherever your day takes you. Trident Coffee isn't just about great-tasting coffee. It's about empowering you to be the healthiest version of yourself, because great veterans make great citizens. Try their instant cold brew today, along with many other coffee products, and taste the freedom of wellness. Remember, when you choose Trident, you're not just choosing coffee. You're choosing a path of connection through health and wellness. Head on over to tridentcoffee.com and use the promo code TDP15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's TDP15 for 15% off your order.
Long range group. Incorporate recovery days. I know this kind of has a sound of working out. You know, that's the one thing that everybody always says. Make sure you're getting a good recovery day. Take that one day off a week, let your body rest. But your transition plan and your career plan needs to have the same thing. Probably a more realistic analogy is a car. You're not going to keep a car for the next 10 years and never change the oil, never check the air in the tires, never do general maintenance. You're going to need to take time to pull that car off the line and make sure that everything's working so that you can keep operating, or it can keep operating in a manner that's beneficial to you. Your career plan, as it equates to your transition plan, is the exact same thing. Is what you're doing today positive and beneficial and working towards where you want to get tomorrow? Is it where you want to get to tomorrow career-wise, which is then going to have the greater goal of making you the most marketable once you come to your transition? Are you seeing results? Does the decisions, or are the decisions you're making today, move you forward? Or when you create your recovery period, when you create your review time to kind of come offline and take stock of the training you're doing, the jobs you're volunteering for, the opportunities that are coming your way, if you're not moving forward, are you stagnating and just staying still? And does that mean that you need to make changes? Change of assignment, change of location, whatever is in your control that you can do? Or even worse, are you moving backwards? Are you not better than you were, and I'll use in air quotes, yesterday? Those kind of things aren't something that's necessarily a quick review. It might be something where you take a weekend and really kind of look at all that you've done over the last 6 months, a year, whatever interval you want to create for your review, for your recovery time. Make sure that you're doing an honest evaluation of where you were the previous time and where you're at now. Are the changes preferably positive? If the changes are staying the same, is it because you're not putting the effort into trying to improve? If you've gone backwards, and this is where it might get sticky, inevitably, as you start being more positive in your career, oftentimes it might have a negative impact. You might ruffle feathers of coworkers. You might ruffle feathers of superiors, because there is that part of human nature that not everybody is going to be your cheerleader. If you wanting to be positive and make improvements in your career is actually getting you some negative pushback from those around you, that's something that you really need to be mindful of. Does that mean, hey, I need to get out from underneath this team that I'm on, because the team that I'm on is not positive for me. It's not encouraging my growth. It's actually taking away or stifling my growth. You may not be able to make a change right away, but at least you're aware of it. And maybe what you do is you start looking for outside mentors, outside influences to help keep moving your career forward. Again, I don't know exactly what's going to be your plan for your career, but something I want you to think about is that honest evaluation of the changes that you're trying to do for yourself. Are they beneficial? And what are the influences if they're not beneficial? I would say that you want to take stock of what did you accomplish during this period. If it's let's say it's a half-year review, what did you accomplish in the past 6 months? What didn't you accomplish? And are you better than your last check-in? And again, it's that thing of it's a two-part review. What you accomplished should be not impacted by what you didn't do. It should be something that you did everything you can. The external influences in this last period, again, you may not be able to control. Hey, I wanted to go to this training class, or I wanted to get this assignment. Maybe that assignment doesn't open up in this period. So you move that goal again forward for the next 6 months. Same way with a training class. Hey, I had a bad evaluation or a bad fitness report last time. I want a better fitness report. Did you get a better fitness report, or are there still more things that you need to work on? Make sure you're looking at all aspects of your life and your career. How's your personal life? Is your family thriving equally with you? Are you bringing them forward, or are you forgetting about them? Are you putting so much effort into planning your career and what's going to happen down the road that you're kind of forgetting those that are around you? Everything is one piece of a giant puzzle. Make sure you're putting all of the pieces in place for your puzzle. If you need to create a checklist, do it. Granted, you've got a long time ahead of you. Maybe a detailed checklist may or may not be pertinent. You could just sit there and go, I want to see an improvement in the number of projects that get brought my way over the next 6 months. I would still say, though, that even though you're looking at a long time between now and the end of your career and your transition, the more you write down, the more that you have in some sort of tangible format that you can go back and review, that you can keep notes for yourself, that you can actually look at progression, it's going to have a more positive effect on you. I'm not one for just kind of trying to remember everything. So whether you want to call it a checklist, whether you want to call it a notebook, whether you want to call it a spreadsheet, do something that gives you the ability to track what you're doing. Most importantly, though, when you're having those moments of, man, I just don't feel motivated, you can look back at all the stuff that you've accomplished. Equally important, though, you can go back and see what's repeating itself, especially from a negative perspective. Hey, I wanted to do this and I didn't meet it. That's that review period. Oh, I didn't meet it again. Well, maybe there's a time where you got to look in the mirror and go, what am I not doing, or what am I not completing that's allowing this component? Something like networking. How many people did you meet that are new in your network during this review period? You should be adding, I would say at minimum, one new person into your network every 6 months. And that's probably on a very low end. There's no reason why you can't incorporate 2 to 3, 4 to 5 new people into your network that are positive for your long-term goals. We meet people every day. Some of them may or may not have a bearing specifically on what's going to happen in your career or what's going to happen in your transition, but you never know. Evaluate those people and see if there's somebody that you need to maintain a connection with, because you never know who's going to be that catalyst for your next promotion, your next duty assignment, something that you want to get to. You meet them today, it may not be crystal clear that they're going to have a benefit to you, but it may come into clarity a year down the road. So something as simple as your networking every review period. Who are you increasing your network by? Who are you bringing into your circle that's positive for you? Who are you getting rid of that's negative for you? That's an equal part of your networking review. Some people aren't going to be beneficial to you. They may not be encouraging you to improve yourself. They may not be bettering themselves and thus relying on you to be their motivator, which could in turn be an anchor for you. I don't know what the people that you have in your life. You have to do that honest review. Something else to think about. Right now, you've got a career ahead of you. Are you happy with your job? Is your job fulfilling you? Is your job fulfilling your family, or is it taking you away from your family? Are you going to spend the next 10, 15, if you're just starting your career, 20 years, doing something that's not positive for you and your family? I don't know. You have to make that decision. But doing an honest evaluation every 6 months or so, every year, whatever it is you want to do it at. I think a year is a little long. I think 6 months is probably more optimal, but let's say it's even a year. If you're truly not happy, how is it miraculously going to get better? And how are you going to continue to stay positive in an assignment, full-on career that is not making you happy? Something you need to think about. This might seem like overkill. I want you to make the time that you're doing right now, this part of your career, worthwhile to you. Make those decisions for the fun assignments, the assignments that are going to challenge you. But in that little voice in the back of your head, you need to be thinking, am I investing in myself? Am I investing in my long-term future, or am I simply going for what's making me happy at the moment, but it's really not going to have a long-term impact to you? Make sure that you're always thinking about the investment in yourself for the long term. Is the time that you're investing right now going to give you benefit? If it means, hey, you know what, I'm going to do X assignment for this next year, but then I'm going to get out of it, then have fun for that year, but know that you've got an exit date. But don't get stuck there, and then pretty soon you're 4 or 5 years into it, and now you have no way of really getting out. Equal to that, if you're not happy and you have you ultimately have the ability to change, because if the career or the profession is not making you happy, especially if you're a veteran, enlistments end. You have the ability to reevaluate your whole life and say, do I want to take the next enlistment, or do I want to step away? First responders, it's a little bit more difficult because a lot of times they don't build in any type of career review. You got to do it on your own. But I would say this, if you come to whatever your period is that you're going to review, you and your career, and you're not happy, and you don't see a way to make it better, because ultimately at the end of the day, you have to admit that it's the career that's not making you happy. Ask yourself this: if you just stick it out, and I'll use the analogy of parents who stay married for the benefit of the kids, where 9 times out of 10, the kids know the parents aren't happy, and the parents end up spending 15, 20 years together, just completely wasting that time. If you're going to do the same thing with your career, if you're going to spend the next 15 to 20 years just trying to grin and bear it, you're going to end up getting into your transition burned out and not happy, and more than likely not making your family any better also. Make sure you're building that into your review. Not just your accomplishments, not just the classes you've completed, not just the jobs that you took on and you did well, but actually How does the career make you feel? And is it fulfilling you from the inside out? Set your long-term goals. Plan for your future. Accomplish those goals. Have fun while you're on this journey, but build in periods where you step off the line and you do an honest evaluation of how is your career progressing? Is it moving where you want it to go? If it's something that you can control and it's not moving where you want it to go, then make the change. If you're doing everything you can and it's just external influences, can you circumvent those influences, or is the greater component you're just not happy with the career? That's on you individually. So in closing, close range group, reset fast and keep moving forward. Real simple. Don't get mired in the mud. Mistakes happen. Don't get bogged down. For the medium range group, revisit your plan often. Even if you think you're on course, we're all in jobs and careers where we have to get from A to B frequently. Even if we know we're on course to get there, what do we still often do? We still check our GPS. You need to do the same thing with your transition plan and the last few years of your career. Long range group, incorporate recovery days. You aren't going to be able to go to the gym for the next 25 or 30 years without taking time to step back and go, is that workout plan working for me? Is that meal plan working for me? Why am I not seeing progress? The same thing is going to happen with your career. You need to step off, make sure that you're choosing the right assignments, you're ingesting your meal plan, the right information that is going to make you improve, make your career the best it can be, and make your transition as best as possible. In wrapping this up, again, my sincere apology for missing a week. I will be back on track. I don't see why we aren't going to have these episodes. If there's something else that you want to hear, let me know. Please help this grow, help the podcast grow by sharing it, by liking it, by following it. All of those things help it get in front of more eyes and more ears. Until the next time, remember, mistakes happen, shit happens. Get back on track.